Hello there, and thank you so much for checking out this bujo video. So it is a new month and a new bullet journal for me. I just managed to fit my August setup into my last bullet journal, so I've had to move into a brand new one. And this one is from Notebook Therapy, as the last few I've had have been, and I'm really impressed with them. I really love the quality of the paper, and the designs are just so pretty. I feel like the camera doesn't quite capture the actual colour of this journal. It's very teal-like, and it's definitely got tones of green and blue in there, and it's just really, really pretty. And I love the gold designs. And this one, the pages are all gold edged, but it also has the pattern in it as well, like the sun and just little sparkles all along the edge, and it's so pretty, I love it. So yeah, really excited to use a brand new journal. So all of my themes this year have been based on travelling around the world, and I've chosen a different location for each setup. This time I am visiting another place in the US. I've already done Miami back in June, and yeah, for September I am focusing on Monument Valley, which is a national park in Arizona. And it's somewhere I've never been, but I've always wanted to go. It looks incredible. There's just something so intriguing and magical about it. It just looks incredible, and yeah, I really, really want to see it one day. But I was sort of searching through Pinterest, as one does, and came across some silhouettes of the kind of rocky structures, buttes I think they're called. And yeah, I saw these sort of silhouette shapes, and that kind of sparked an idea. So I'm using watercolours this time, and I've drawn out just some rocky formation shapes. I haven't copied anything from real life, I've just made it up based on pictures and images I've seen, and it's going to be very basic. I'm using solid colours rather than doing any sort of shading or anything like that. So the first layer is just using this really sort of orangey red colour, and then in front of that I've kind of got two other layers. So I'm going to do a brown layer and then a really dark brown layer in front of that. So this first section kind of has three different colours to it. I've got, yeah, the rock formations and also some cacti in there as well. So darkest colours at the front, and then as we move back they kind of get lighter and lighter. And I was keeping to sort of brown and orange and yellow colour palette here, just to really reflect the kind of warmth and heat of the area. After I'd painted all three layers, I cut round the shapes to remove all of the white area using a craft knife. Unfortunately, the blade was quite blunt, so it was quite a tricky operation. I knew I had some more blades somewhere, but I just could not find them, so I had to make do. So that was my first layer done, and then I used another slightly lighter reddish brown to do my next layer. And because this one was mostly hiding behind those first three layers, I just made that all one colour and then cut out the shape again and removed all of the white area above it. The kind of main difficulty with using watercolour in a journal like this is that it's not designed for watercolour, so actually getting a really even layer of paint is quite difficult. So I tried as much as possible to not get it to be blotchy or streaky, but it is still a bit textured here and there, but it's not too bad. I was also being very careful not to get the page too damp, because if it gets very damp then water can seep through to the other side, which I was trying to avoid as much as possible. So the back layer then is a lighter orangey reddish colour again, and this one is quite far in the distance, so the rock formations are that bit smaller. And then again just cutting it all out, and actually by this page I'd found my blades, so this one was a lot easier to cut out because it was actually sharp. So I was happy with those three layers, and then the final back page I just painted a light yellow colour, and this was kind of sunsetty and stuck with the overall colour palette. I could have done blue for a blue sky, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to keep it warm and orangey. I used more concentrated paint at the top so that it was quite more intense yellow, and then I just added more and more water as I went down, so then it was quite a light wash at the bottom. And then I added in a sun with some yellow ochre. The placement of the sun is quite central, and then I did the rock formation slightly off to the side, and so that it would be in front of the sun and just create this really cool sunset. And this page is actually going to be the calendar page, so below that sun shape I am leaving it blank so that I can draw in the calendar in a minute. And then I added my title. I made up this font and sort of added like these dots and little arrows on it. I kind of wanted to give it a bit of a tribal feeling because Monument Valley is actually within a Navajo Nation Reserve, so I kind of wanted to give a nod towards that as well, and I felt like this sort of created the vibe. And then I hadn't actually planned this, but because the opposite page was quite large and blank, I decided to make that a goals page. So I just gave it a little title, and then I used a Tombow brush pen in a very light pinky colour just to fill in the space a bit more so it didn't look quite so empty. And then again, I hadn't really planned it, but the other side of the last rock formation was very large and empty. So I went back and added a quote page, and I did it just low enough so that it would hide behind the layer in front of it. And my quote was, "If seeds waited for the perfect conditions to grow, there would be no plants in the desert." I wanted to reference the terrain in my quote if I could, so I found this one obviously that related to a desert, and I really like it. I think it's just a more poetic way of saying there's no right time to do anything, so if you want to do something, just do it. And I added in these arrow designs just to sort of again hark back to the Navajo theme, and also just kind of give it like quite a boho tribal vibe. So after the other pages were filled in, I went back and did my calendar. It's a pretty simple one, and the boxes are quite small for me. I usually like a bigger one than that, but I kind of needed to make it small to fit behind the other pages in front of it. So I think it was worth it to have the smaller boxes. It looks really cool, so I'm happy with it. And I just used the Tombow brush pen again to add a bit more colour, just so that it's not a big white block. And I think this page alone looks not that great, but obviously with the other pages stacked up in front of it, I think it looks really awesome, and I'm very happy with it. So on to the next spread, and this is my habits and trackers page. And this time I decided to mix it up a little bit and turn the journal on its side. I don't think I've ever done that before, but I feel like I do the same setup for habits and trackers so frequently. I just felt like doing something different and making it look a bit different. So I started off with my yoga tracker as usual at the top there, and then underneath my 4 habits that I track each month. Monument Valley is in a region of the Colorado Plateau, and it is made famous by its sandstone buttes, the largest of which reaching at least 1,000 meters above the floor of the valley. The Navajo name for it is unfortunately not something that I can pronounce, but it means Valley of the Rocks in English. The climate is very hot in the summer and reaches an average of about 32 degrees C, or that's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. But as in many desert areas, the temperature drops very quickly after the sunset. The winters are very cold, and they do sometimes get some snow there, but it melts quite quickly, and temperatures are rarely below 0 degrees. I'm sorry, my camera just decided it was going to lose focus at this point, so it's a bit potato mode, sorry. I added my title at the top, and again just did this really sort of cool boho arrow design underneath. And I also had these dot stickers because the decoration I was going to do on this page was at the bottom. So I did again sort of sunset with the orangey rock formations in front, but because that was just along the bottom page, and then the sunset sort of fading upwards, I didn't really have any decoration for the top page. So I thought the dot stickers would look quite cool if I could find some corresponding colours. They're not perfect, so if I were to put it right next to the painting, it would look a bit off, but I think because there's a decent gap between the paint and the dots, it looks quite good, and it looks like it all matches up nicely. Okay, so on to my next spread, and there's not too much decoration on these pages. I'm going to keep with the theme of using watercolour to do layers of rock formations. So I've lightly sketched out my rock formation shapes, covering about the bottom third of the page. So starting off with the light yellow colour and then fading it upwards, just adding a bit of water until it's completely disappeared. And then the second layer is a very light brown colour, and then the third layer is quite a deep orangey brown colour, getting a few of those cactus shapes in there as well. So the to-do list is my first page, and I'm drawing a border with a black fine line pen. Because this is a new journal, the front is not very thick, so a tip to try and help you draw on those front pages is to put like a washi tape, or I've also used a rubber as well, just underneath that top page to keep it a bit flatter rather than angling down, and then it makes it easier to draw on. And again, just using those dot stickers and doodling a little arrow in there as well. The next one is a gratitude page, and yep, that's exactly the same, other than I've just mixed up where the dots and the arrows are placed. I haven't used these dot stickers very much. I haven't really found that many uses for them, because when I bought them I thought they were washi dots, but they were on Amazon and they were described as washi dots, but when they arrived they were actually those PET plastic ones, which I don't like as much. But yeah, I'm kind of glad I've managed to find a use of them here. On to my weekly spreads, and I've done exactly the same thing here. I think because the front page was quite time consuming, doing all the layers and cutting everything out, I decided to keep the rest of my spread quite simple. So yeah, using that exact same format, the bottom third of the page, just layers of the rock formations and the sunset. And I've put a whole week per page this time. I don't think I've used this layout before, so I'll see how it works for me, because it's quite a narrow strip for each day, and then a little section at the bottom for any notes that I want to add. It is quite pleasingly even, and I quite like how uniform it looks, but yeah, we'll just see how it is to use. And once I did that for all my weeks of September, I just added on the last page as a memories page. I've always had this fascination with desert-like landscapes, like really barren and dry and hot, and I think maybe because I live in a country where that just doesn't exist, and I haven't really seen it very much. I have seen a little bit on a train while I was going through America. It's just so interesting to me, and I would love to see more of it. And yeah, the addition of these incredible rock structures, they're just fascinating, and they just seem so improbable, and probably why it's such an important and sacred space to the Navajo people. I'm really happy with how my design turned out this month. I think the cover page is obviously my favourite, with all those cutouts. I think it looks so cool. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the design. Please leave a like and a comment if you feel like it, and subscribe if you would like to see more arts and crafts and bujos. Thanks so much for watching, bye!